this fear says, like, who am I to do this every time you go to share your truth or your light? And healing this wound is about remembering that your intuition and power are not dangerous. They're sacred. Every time you trust your intuition, your inner knowing, you're speaking your truth, you honor your gifts, you're healing generations before you. Welcome to the Story of Spirit podcast, where practical spirituality meets real life. Hi, I'm your host, Sheetal Story. I'm a psychic medium, grief support counselor, professional astrologer, and a human design reader, and of course, a law of attraction master coach. With my unique blend of spiritual and practical tools, I am here to help you align with your soul-led purpose and ignite a life that sets your soul on fire. In this podcast, we are going to explore the principles of energy, astrology, spirituality, and psychology to help you heal your grief and create an aligned life and business from the inside out. Whether you are looking to deepen your intuition, understand your cosmic design, or transform your business, this podcast is for you. Join me each week for insightful discussions, practical tips, and inspiring stories that will guide you on your journey to living your very best life. Don't forget to subscribe and follow us on Instagram at Sheetal Story or wherever you listen to this podcast. Let's dive in and start this transformative journey together. Welcome to the Story of Spirit podcast. Today, I have a very juicy topic to talk to you all about. This one has been on my pile of topics that I wanted to get to. What brought it about was a conference that I went to recently for women in business, and I saw this wound come out so predominantly. And the wound I'm talking about is the witch wound. And that's why I that's the word I'm looking for, titled this episode, The Witch Wound, the Hidden Fear That Keeps Women from Stepping into Their Power. Because this witch wound is old, going back to the 15th century. And it really is something I noticed, especially women in business, but women all around the world, and women in leadership positions in government and professional women, where they really hide. It drove the mystical, natural ability to tap into energy, plant medicine, the stars, understanding omens that are coming across, and categorizing it all as the witch. And if you're not familiar with the witch, witches or Wiccan is considered to be a religion where there's very much a ability or this knowledge that we are very powerful and there's energy in nature. And if we follow these the omens of nature, the energy of nature, our own intuition, we are so powerful. We can make things happen in the natural world by directing this energy with a lot of intention. And sometimes, as the intention is good or bad, which has been kind of flavored by Hollywood, it flavors the outcome. So, whether you believe that to be true or not, I do believe that, like, of course, having good intentions in anything that you do is always, good. Of course, we are egoic beings. So if you ever want to use your energy for not so good things like revenge or karma just means a life lesson, you are going to get the life lesson back to you as well. So that is not our job to take revenge or take on. Karma comes about through natural law, and it's not through you. So I think that has gotten a bad rap in Hollywood, and of course it is very sensational to talk about witches. But the witch wound is really the collective trauma carried by women who were once punished for their intuition, wisdom, and healing gifts. And it was just these women who were wise. It was the wise woman. And this is wisdom that was passed down through the ages, that before there was medicine, before there was science, there was these, herbs that healed, and there was places that you go and don't go on this planet. Something that I love in indigenous culture is there was vortexes of energy, or vortices, one might say, and there are vortices of energies all around this planet. We live on an energetic planet, and there are energy lines that crisscross this planet called ley lines. And these energy vortexes, sometimes these energy lines cross in multiple ways and become sort of this vortex of energy. And sometimes these vortexes of energy create, one might say portals, but places in which it kind of messes with our system. And so you would see in indigenous culture that they would have these spiral formations with rocks to indicate places around the world that there are vortexes of energy. I am not lying. This is actually part of the indigenous culture, and the spiral exists all around the world as sort of a symbol of energy. And places where these rocks are in formations, if you stand in them, you will feel the energy vortex. And they exist all around the world. And indigenous people understood where these vortexes were and knew this is not a place to build. This is not a place to be around, even, right? This energy is bringing something in or changing the energy of this world in some way. So we wouldn't build houses on it, for example. But after, all the treaties and everything and development, we just build houses wherever we want because subdivisions exist, and whatever. So they're not actually paying attention to the energy of the land. And that's why some houses have weird vibes, y'all. Like, I literally went to a house to help clear it because she was saying that they felt like a highway of people through it. And she had a vortex in her guest bedroom. And it felt like you were like spinning in a tornado when you went in there. And I went in with my mom. We used to clear houses. And she's like, yeah, I meditate on this bed. And I said, why do you meditate here? She goes, I always feel kind of funny. I was like, maybe funny good or funny not so good. And she's like, well, I never really got a good sleep on this bed. And I said, so you have people visiting, they sleep here? And she's like, no, 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 I would put them in the basement instead. So I said, you just have this room? She goes, yeah. And when we did a clearing on the space, the energy vortex was natural. It went all the way down her house and down into the basement as well. But it was in a corner of the basement where it's not really occupied. So very, fascinating when you look at natural phenomenon that exist on this planet. These things exist. And if we're buying houses or land or, property that have these phenomenon on there, we start to experience some weird stuff. And witches understood this, or I would say medicine women, or even medicine men who understood this energy, understood the medicines of the land, understood the healing gifts of intuition, of wisdom, of omens. There was this kind of understanding that there's more to this world than just what we see. But that was actually demonized, subjugated, because that meant powerful women had more say in society. And guess who didn't like that? Men did not like that. So between the 1500th and the 18th century, sorry, the 15th and the 18th centuries, tens of thousands of women were executed across Europe and North America for being witches, simply because they were powerful, intuitive, or different, or not even at all. Men, there's many of documented cases where men were actually abusing women sexually and physically. And in order to save their skin, they branded them as witches and had them executed, killed, right? Or even drowned. Even the methodology, right? If we put a witch in the river and she doesn't drown, she floats to the top, well, then she's definitely a witch and we've got to burn her. What? Like, what? I sort of feel like, did nobody say this is ludicrous? Does that make sense? Like, if she doesn't die this way, well, we got to kill her another way. Like, it is absolutely a way that they manipulated women, society, used a fear and to subjugate women. And so some of these women also had land and had assets that, of course, she's a witch, all those assets will go to maybe the person who executed her or caught her, called her out as a witch. So that fear of being a witch was really passed down through generations, living in our DNA as an unconscious belief that it's not safe for us to be seen, to be powerful, or to be spiritual in any way. And so we hide that, right? Even now, like, I came from corporate culture and I never saw anyone that had crystals on their desk. I mean, as I started to leave and share what I do and stuff like that, I started to know more of that stuff coming out. But it was very much frowned upon, to be intuitive or to be in touch with emotions or understand cycles of things. Like, no one talked about that. So it was very interesting to, have this juxtaposition, if you will, of being super spiritual and being a psychic medium, talking to dead people and seeing energy and omens and things all over the place. And then being in the corporate world where none of that is welcome, and don't talk about that because you're crazy, you know? And I think that's in general. I think it's changing now in the general population, but I did at the beginning of my spiritual journey, which is about 15, 16 years ago now, I ran into, actually, I came across my path, came across a psychic medium who was at a psychic fair. I went to a psychic fair to see if I could get a psychic to tell me that I was crazy. I really did think, I was like, I'm hearing voices. They're nice voices. They're telling me things about people that I shouldn't know. And again, that would have been branded a witch right back in the day, but I'm actually a psychic medium. And so I went through the show and this psychic show, and I was people I was definitely not drawn to. And there was this lady standing at a desk that was handling the actual psychic. So she wasn't the psychic, she was handling the psychic. And I kept getting drawn to her, and she was drawn to me too because she kept looking at me. And I was with my mom, and I was like, I think I meant to talk to that lady over there. And my mom's like, well, you've got to follow your intuition. So I went up to the lady and I said, hi, my name is Sheetal. I'm here at the show. I'm actually looking for some answers. I think my gifts are coming in again, but I don't really know. I'm looking for someone to, maybe just give me some information or tell me something. I don't have a lot of money. I do have young kids and stuff at this moment. I have a baby. I'm on maternity leave. And she's like, I know I meant to help you. I saw you walk in and I was wondering when you were going to come over because I know I meant to help anyone who comes and asks me for help. She said, I'm not the psychic. My mom is. And let me just go talk to her for a moment. You wait here. So I waited there and she went and talked to her mom. And her mom looked up at me and she said, yes, fine, come on over. And so I sat down and I said, are you able to help me? She says, yes, but I'm going to do this very fast because you're not paying. And I said, yeah, no, I'm so grateful for you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Her name was Psychic Anna. I remember that. And I haven't been able to find her since. Hopefully she's alive out there. But she was a rune caster. So if you don't know what runes are from Eastern Europe, and they're usually carved on little rectangles of bone. So bone or teeth or ivory sometimes as well, sometimes wood as well. And they're little rectangles and they have different symbols on them. And the symbols make zero sense to me, but they're in Ancestry, it makes sense. And you put them into either like a velvet bag or a cup, and then you shake the cup or shake the bag, and then you spill them out either into a bowl or onto a silk scarf or onto the table. And the way that they form, they will tell the reader what they need to see. So they sort of see what they need to say in the ruins, and they'll tell you what they see in there. So it's very much a divination tool. A divination tool focuses your intuition on in a certain way to help you trigger your subconscious to say the things you need to say to help the person in front of you. So she was a rune caster, which was pretty cool because I've never had a rune caster read for me ever. And even before, like, that was my first time having anyone read for me, truly. So she, asked me to shake the bag, and I gave it to her, and then she put it out on the table, and she's like, yep, you are a psychic medium and you definitely need to develop your gifts. And I was like, you wouldn't be lying to me. And she was like, are you wasting my time right now? Are you kidding me right now? I was like, are you lying to me? And she's like, no, I am telling you the truth. My guys are telling me that you're going to be an excellent psychic medium. You're going to help a lot of people, and you need to go develop your gifts. And I'm not the person to do that. And I was like, okay, so like, what's my first step? She goes, meditation. You got to go get your mind right. You have too busy of a mind. You ask too many questions. So it's like, I hate to break it to you, but that's not going to change ever. But you need to go get yourself right and go get meditation. So I was like, okay, thank you so much. I said, may I hug you? She said, no. And then I hugged the daughter. I said, thank you so much. I got what I needed. We left there and I signed up for my first meditation class. And that changed my life because I really was like, am I crazy? I don't know where to go. I don't know what to start with. I reached out to so many psychic mediums. No one really got back to me. I was just like, can nobody help me? I think this is why I have mediumship classes now. This is why I have intuition classes. This is why I created MIA Academy, because I want to help women develop their intuition, right? We are done with this effing witch wounds. Let me tell you, the rise of the divine feminine is here, my friends, and it is about stepping into our gifts as women, which is our intuition, which is understanding that we can see patterns, that we are nurturing, we have emotions that actually give us intelligence, and we cannot continue to push those down into our socks anymore. So, this fear has been passed down through generations, living in our DNA as unconscious beliefs that is not safe for us to be seen powerful and spiritual. And I see this wound showing up today as women doubting their intuition, hiding their gifts, people pleasing to stay safe and accepted. These are ways that we are continuing to align with the witch wound because it really was so much fear. We know in science that trauma lives in our DNA. There was a study done with Holocaust survivors, and they had their DNA from before and after, and they survived the Holocaust. And their DNA was fundamentally changed by the traumas that they experienced. So we know that trauma changes DNA. So we know that the collective, especially women, have really been affected by this witch wound because it was so like the terror that was instilled was so horrific. Women were scared to say anything that could be misconstrued. Even medicine, midwives, right? Anyone who was helping deliver babies, or if there was bleeding, or these things happen, but they were blamed for it. Like, I'm not even kidding you. Like, hundreds of thousands of women around the world killed. And, those are my friends that are in the spiritual world right now that are leaders, mediums, medicine women, shamans. They all have had lifetimes probably of being killed, burned at the stake. I know I did. I have past life regressions to those moments of running and trying to protect my kids. And it was a horrible, horrible time for women. And it had to be so horrible that it drove these gifts underground for this long. Like we're in the year 2025 and we're still having this like, oh, you're a medium. Oh, you're a psychic. Shouldn't you seen that coming? Like, haha, you're funny. You will not shame me. You cannot. There was a time when I was really, really scared to come out with my gifts too. Man, did I have the witch wound. I know every now and again it creeps out a little bit for sure, but now I actually stand strong in my gifts. And when I first came into my gifts, I started to develop them. I went to a meditation class. I joined mediumship circle. I honed my mediumship gifts. I actually had to go through multiple testings. I've certified in multiple places and different practitioners that this is legit. I literally had to read dead people and take a questionnaire that then was verified afterwards. Like, I'm not kidding you. This is like, I'm very, very much into personal development, and I've developed my gifts to a very deep extent. And there's always more to go. Like, I'm never done. Nobody's done. But when I started to do that, and the first time that I launched my Facebook page, ooh, I was scared, y'all. I was scared what people were going to think of me. I was scared what was going to, people thought it was going to be phony or a fraud. And I've talked about this in the show before because you manifest what you believe. And so I was really nervous about that. I launched my page and I shut down my computer and I went away. And when I came back, I had so many, like hundreds of comments from people that are like, I knew it. Yay for you for coming out. Remember when you were a palm reader in grade 6 carnival and grade 5 carnival? I was like, what? I do remember that. I was a gypsy, dressed up as a gypsy, which I understand now is a derogatory word to some. So I apologize if that feels that way for you. But it's a culture of Eastern Europeans that had a culture of being very mystical women. That's what I mean when I say that word. And there's no offense intended in any which way. But that I dressed up as that for Halloween a couple times when I was a kid back in the 80s. And it was something that was always in me. I've always loved like witch movies and mystical movies and women, kicking ass. And so I came out when I was still in corporate and I published my page. And during a presentation. I had a presentation at a distribution house, if you will, for food. So I was coming in with my wagon of all my samples and my information sheets, and I was setting up. And there was 2 ladies in there that were following my journey, and actually ended up taking classes from me. So they were very intuitive themselves. And their district sales manager was a gentleman. And he goes, "Oh, here's Sheetal. Hey, are you going to come clear my house of ghosts?" I said, "You probably couldn't afford me." And with that, everybody laughed and he shut up after that. I kind of like knew something was going to come eventually because it was my own fear manifesting that. But I was ready. I'm like, no one puts baby in a corner. Let me tell you that even when I was out and about with friends, or we went to a party, I remember a party one time we went to, it was my girlfriend's like 40th birthday or something. And we were there with a whole bunch of people I didn't know. She had multiple kind of friend groups of different, places where she worked at and people she knew from different parts of her life and with her husband. And so I was pretty new to a lot of these people. So we sat down at the table, people are mulling around and stuff. And I said, "What do you do for a living?" And I just kind of walked around the table to sort of like listen to everybody. I was like, "Oh, what do you do? I've not met anybody here." And then it came to me and they said, "What do you do?" And I said, "I'm a psychic medium and a tarot reader." And they're like, "What?" They're like, "Can you see aura?" And I said, "Yes, I can see aura." And they're like, "Tell us our aura." And I had to do the party trick of going around the table and telling everybody what their aura colors were and what they meant. It's a gift that I have available to me, but also super annoying. Like, it's not a parlor trick. It's actually a healing gift. I can see into your soul. When you ask me what color your aura is, I have to look into your soul to see what colors are there and what they tell me about you and who are you as a person and what's happening in your life right now. Like, you're giving me permission to look into the window of your soul when you do that. I don't just go around and look at people's aura. Like, that's weird, and it's also, I'm in this 3D world myself. I'm not just sitting here being this love and light person. Like, I do have my own stories and my own things that I want to get done, and my own ego that I am working through in my lifetime as well. So it was really interesting though when that district sales manager said to me, "Yeah, it's here she's going to come clear your house." And I said, "You probably couldn't afford me." And I didn't even miss a beat. Like, I was continuing to set up and stuff, and everyone's like, "Whoa!" And then somebody changed the topic, and it didn't come up again. And I felt so empowered. We're really in a time where hopefully it doesn't come back, but burning witches at the stake's not a thing. But it's not like we're not, it was labeled witchery, but it was not witchcraft. It was actually understanding the laws of nature, right? The herbs to pick and when to pick them, what herbs to put together and make concoctions that made people feel better. What about, understanding the body and how the body worked, and, midwives and all of that came along with birthing babies. And then nature as well, and the cycles of nature, and understanding the solstice and the equinoxes and what those meant, and then following the moon and charging moon water to help us in our bodies and to be more in tune with our cycles. And then women's cycles were 29 and a half, or 29 and a half days. They go with the moon cycles. So like, there's so much here that is actually natural, ancient wisdom that was passed down through the generations. And my heart breaks for the fact that we had to throw all that away, or either keep it deep underground where some of it was lost, that we couldn't share it because we were scared that men were going to persecute us. And it's not to say that women didn't persecute too. I think the witch wound also affected women in a way that, if it's not me, that's them. So we have to become the persecutor, not the victim, right? Because if I'm the victim, then I'm dead. So if I'm the person pointing at everybody and saying, "No, I'm not the witch, but she is," that could save me and my children. And so I was sending love to those women who did that because they were trying to save themselves as well. So it just made a mess out of understanding our gifts, and it made us so scared to actually claim them. And I'm here to say, not on my watch. We are bringing back the mystic. We're bringing back the powerful woman who is deeply in tuned with nature, with her spiritual nature, spirituality, and understanding the cycles that she lives in, understanding that we have this magic in us from the astrology, from human design, that we have the ability to manifest and make energy do what we want it to do. And, if you say casting spells, sometimes people call that prayer, right? If you're asking for something, guess what you're doing? You're casting a spell, right? But of course, the church made that prayer, right? Yeah, sure, okay. Also took in these mystical holidays and made them Christmas, made them Easter, right? Like, made them Thanksgiving. Like, what are we actually, when you look back and see how toxic the church was in taking all of these beautiful ancient wisdom that came from this history of understanding the cycles that we live in, and how they corrupted it and made it something else. And now it's like marketable, right? Like everything, you have to spend money on everything, versus understanding that this is a mystical inward journey or outward journey based on, whatever it is. The equinoxes or the solstices are beautiful turning points where we used to celebrate them. And many cultures around the world do celebrate them in their own ways. So if you've been feeling this in your blood, if something in here came in for you, that you're hiding your gifts, that you're people pleasing to stay safe and accepted, that you minimize your intuition, this brings to mind a beautiful human. I hope she's listening to this. I won't say her name for anonymity, but she took my intuition class. She has the ability to see spirit. She's 100% a medium. She's had a lot of experiences about them in her life, and she grew up scared because her parents said, this is the devil's work. This is not the God's work, which I'm like, everything comes, if you have this gift, it's within you, then it's God's work, right? You are the divine. It is coming to you. You have this ability. Though it's up to you now to hone this gift. So she came into my Intuition 101 class, killed it. She's a natural born medium. I mean, we're all natural born. If you're a medium, you're natural born. Like, I hate that term. People have used that so many times to kind of say I'm better than you, but it's not. We're all, if you're a medium, you're naturally born to have that in you. It'll just come out when you're ready, when it's ready. But she had this intuitive gift and she was so good at it. She 100% again is going to be a medium. She was so scared that her husband was going to leave her. And her husband was dead set against this stuff, this witchery, right? He was super religious. They had 3 kids. They're a very beautiful family, but she was really scared that if she developed this part of herself, that she would then put her family in danger. In danger. Is that not the witch wound? Right? She's not going to be burned at the stake, but her husband's going to be like, choose this or choose me. And she didn't want to she didn't want that. She also had the witch wound too. So scared for her family to know that she was doing this class. Many people take my intuition classes in secret because they don't want anyone to know. And it's really nobody's business. I get it, but it's the witch wound bright as day, right? So I send her so much love and call her in when she's ready to step into her gifts. She is such a healing light to everybody who knows her. She's just the sweetest thing. I always kind of keep eyes on her, on Facebook, but sending her love. And if that's you, that you've been hiding your gifts and talents because you're scared of what people might think of you, I hate to break it to you, but you have a witch wound. And so, you might feel quiet. This fear says, like, who am I to do this every time you go to share your truth or your light? And healing this wound isn't about, healing this wound is about remembering that your intuition and power are not dangerous. They're sacred. Every time you trust your intuition, your inner knowing, you're speaking your truth, you honor your gifts, you're healing generations before you. We like to say in spirituality that you heal 7 generations that have come before and 7 generations that are going to come after. So if you're a woman and you have children, guess what? When you open the door to your intuition and bringing that part of you home and you're reclaiming that this is magic, your magic, you're also reclaiming it for them too, right? My last Intuition 101 class was all mothers with intuitive kids. Guess what? If you have intuitive kids, you probably are very intuitive yourself. They are now just taking that to the next level. Yay! And how do you be amazing stewards? How are you going to be amazing stewards for these beautiful humans into the world? Because they are going to set up the world for massive success. We know that the age of Aquarius is starting in about 140 years. So that is not just our generation. Obviously, that's going to be your kids' generation and then our grandkids. And if you don't have children, don't worry. This is also includes you because your energy does permeate to the next generation, even if you don't have biological offspring. It is still affecting the collective. You still matter, even if you don't have kids. Also, part of the witch wound. Oh, you're supposed to be this way and do that. No, who cares? You don't have to have kids. You don't have to have a career. You don't have to be a woman entrepreneur. You can be whoever the F you want. That's the witch wound too. Trying to just pretend that, or project is the word I'm looking for. Project onto you all these things that you should be. You know what? Shut up. I'm going to be who I want to be. Ooh, I'm getting spicy today. So the more we reclaim our magic, the more we lead the world back into balance with love, wisdom, and the divine feminine power. The divine feminine power, I said this before in this podcast, it's our emotions. It is about collaboration, community. It is deeply connected to our intuition, the cycles of this planet. We are intuitive beings, and intuition just means you're tapped into the energy of what is coming onto this planet and what is happening between humans, what is happening between nature. We can feel things before they happen if we listen. But if we go to the mind and we go to the doing, we've now gone into the masculine. Right? The masculine is doing, protection. It's protecting the divine feminine. It is productivity. It is being out into the world and gathering for the women so that the women can cook it. Like those are those old roles. Now, I'm not saying you need to be cooking anything, for anybody, but what I'm saying is that nurturing is part of our nature as women. And men have nurturing too, right? The divine feminine isn't just for women. The divine feminine is for men. When we heal the divine feminine within us and we heal this witch wound, we realize we can also then invite the men to heal their divine feminine. Because a man in their divine feminine is hot, y'all. Hot because they are sensitive, they're caring, they want to protect their family. They're fantastic fathers if they choose to be. They are people who can be trusted. You don't have to worry about choosing the bear over the dude because the dude is in touch with his divine feminine. And it doesn't mean that he's gay. I mean, he could be, but it's really about him understanding how it is to be with his emotions, how it is to be in emotional connection and authenticity with someone else. That is something that has also been snuffed out of the men. And that has to change as well. And healing that divine feminine nature is what's going to bring that back for everybody. So the more we claim our magic, the more we lead the world back into balance. It starts with us. And, witchcraft was never evil. The witch was never evil. She was powerful. And that scared men. Scared men. Scared, I think, other women as well who didn't have their power on lock. So it's time now to stop apologizing for our power, for our wisdom, for our intuition. And it's time now for us to step forward into that embodiment of our intuition, stepping forward into our magic, into our gifts. Some of us might have the gifts of speaking to spirit. Some of us might have the gifts of understanding herbs and healing powers, or crystals, or astrology, or speaking to animal spirits. Like, it is all part of who we are. And I think we've kind of made these things very magical, mystical, maybe even witchy, or maybe even evil because we didn't understand it. But actually, they're powers that are from the divine. They are from our spirit. We gave them to ourselves because we needed it on this planet in this time. So, the way to heal the witch wound is really to develop your intuition, to trust yourself above all else, to bring your power back to you, and to find communities of women like me. And I have tons of community people around me that are also, we have a huge community over here of psychic mediums, of intuitive, of spiritual women. I have MIA Academy is opening in December for, all of those who want to learn more about their intuition. And this is a time we can manifest now. This is a time to take back our power. So if you're interested in that, check out the link for MIA Academy. Get on the wait list if you prefer. The doors open as of December 8th, unofficially. If you're on the podcast, you'll know that. Other people will not on my socials. And I would love to call you into this beautiful community of women who are stepping into their intuition. Nobody identifies as a witch in this community. If you do, you're welcome to attend as well. But it's really not about us being witches, it's about us living in our authentic self. This is where we come into our power and stop apologizing. This is the lifetime where we get to rise, fully seen, fully expressed, and free to bring this magic to future generations and bring back this ancient wisdom to the collective. So thank you for being here, my friends. Go explore, step into your gifts. If you want me to be your guide, I would be so honored. And let's rise this divine feminine back into being in a powerful way that everyone can step into it and come back into harmony. Thank you for joining me on this episode of the Story of Spirit podcast. I hope you have found inspiration, support, and practical insights to help you align with your soul-led purpose and live a life that sets your soul on fire. If you have enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe to the podcast, leave a review, and share it with a friend. Your support helps us to reach more listeners and continues to provide valuable content. I sincerely appreciate every share, and I know it is how most people find me. It is because caring people like you have shared me with them at the right and perfect time. For more resources, insights, and to connect with our community, please visit us at www.sheetalstory.com and follow us on Instagram at sheetalstory. Remember, your journey to a more aligned and vibrant life is just the beginning, and I am here to support you every step of the way. Until next time, stay aligned, stay inspired, and keep shining your beautiful light. This is Sheetal Story, signing off from the Story of Spirit podcast. Here's the legalese that's required by our lawyers. This podcast and the YouTube channel represents the opinions of Sheetal Story and her guests to the show. The content should not be taken as medical, psychological, or financial advice. This series is informational and entertainment purposes only. Because each person is so unique, please consult your healthcare professional, your mental health dream team, your financial advisor, or anyone else that's an expert in the field in where you are thinking of making big choices in your life.